It's like nobody mentioned your name, so what the fuck are you talking about, you little dumbass? You know. See, as soon as he saw that, he got triggered.
I don't have any knee pads. I have health on them. There's a boss right here. Boss dead.
They got those knee pads that dropped in the tech store. I think like 20,000 health or something.
Yeah, I picked them up. They had 18. Wyvenware, 8,400 health, 8% cooldown on the ropes. Damn! Watch out, they back, they back.
Uh-oh.
Deleted. What's up, guys and gals, and welcome back to another Division 2 build video. If you happen to be new to the channel, or you're just enjoying the content, then be sure to ground and pound that like and subscribe button. And don't forget to reach up there, trigger the bell, so that way you have post notifications on, so you never miss a live stream or a video that is uploaded. But first and foremost, thank you each and everyone for the continuous love and support. I am greatly appreciated, and I am humbled by all of it. Thank you all so much. But enough of my rambling, let's hop into it. We have 304,874 health, 199,142 armor, 1,138 skill power. And then we'll get into these skills here in a moment because I do have auxiliary batteries in them, and the pulse is over 2,500 skill power. And of course the Chem Launcher is pretty high too. But there's different weapons that you can choose, just whatever AR is your personal preference. In this case, we are utilizing the custom P416 23.6k base with breadbasket. Landing body shots adds a stack bonus of plus 5% headshot damage to the next headshot for 10 seconds. Max stack is 10. Requires 5 or more offensive Legos, and I have 7. And of course, Allegro, rate of fire. And then transmission while holster shock apply to the agent to any enemy within 10 meters. Can occur once every 60 seconds. Yes, there's better third slot talents, but you know, this is out of all of them the best and the obvious choice that I had to choose, just due to the other talents on the primary where I have breadbasket are unlocked. Thus Ranger and of course nearsighted. And then we have the M4 Police 20.1k base with close and personal. Killing a target within 7 meters grants plus a 50% weapon damage for 5 seconds. Requires 5 or more offensive Legos. And then we have Allegro and then transmission again. So basically we're stuck on with transmission on both of them. But if you prefer the likes of an AK, then you know, I'm thinking about running this one, just switching out the on empty. But 28.2k base already has Allegro and then protected reload. On empty is not too bad, but there are, you know, better options for this particular first slot. And then of course our sidearm, you know, I can have the Liberty, but you know, if you want to use the sidearm holster talents with rooted and transmission, since I am on the survivalist, then by all means you can do so. But when it comes to the survivalist of choice, or I should say the specialist of choice, which is in this case I have chose the survivalist, you can go with basically any specialist now. It's just whichever one's skill tree talents best reflect your playstyle that you are going for. So let's hop into the build, starting with the main component in which this build is centered around, and that is Berserk. Berserk states at plus 10% weapon damage for every 20% max armor depleted. Requires 7 or more MG or an assault rifle. And then of course you want Vital in the second slot, plus 20% health. So the concept is you want all your armor gone, So that way you can get the most bang for your buck, the maximum potential out of Berserk. So that way you survive solely on your health pool and maximize your damage output. So with Berserk, you want to spec into health over armor. Because when it comes right down to it, right down to the brass tacks, armor and health are the same in the sense that they can absorb the same amount of damage as the other. So in this case, let's just round off both numbers to 300k health. So 300k armor and 300k health can take just as much punishment and damage as the other. The only thing that makes it different is the baked in damage that comes on an AR, such as the 29% damage to health. That is directly affected to your health pool, just as if you use the 2-piece True Patriot, which it states that it gives you 10% damage to armor, or they come in mods as well, damage to armor and damage to health, but without such things that affect them. If somebody's using like LMG with no damage to health or damage to armor, then armor and health is exactly the same, and they can absorb just as much punishment as the other. It's just the difference in talents in which you use. In this case, Berserk, you spec into health over armor, and with Bloodsucker, Unbreakable, and of course Unstoppable Force, they are more dependent on your armor pool. So in those cases, in those talents, you want to go with armor over health. But let's go into the attributes. 278 skill power, 8.5% weapon damage, and then 47,891 health. And of course, we have an offensive mod slot to kind of compensate for the mediocre weapons damage by 8.5%. But since I do have a 6.5% weapon damage offensive mod in it, then that puts us up at 15% weapon damage. Sorry, my math is a little rusty. So a total of 15% weapon damage by way of chest. And then let's go over the second component, which is the backpack. Murakami Industries for one piece gives you 8% health. Then I have 7905 armor, and then 4.5% weapon damage, which is I'm missing out on quite a little bit there. And if I do have a better backpack, something along the lines of this per se, except for, you know, even though it has vital utility and a defensive mod slot, I'm still will be losing out on over 20k health. But I would gain, 5.5% weapon damage. So you would have to ask yourself, is that a fair trade-off for you and your playstyle? But for now, until I can find a better Murakami Industries backpack, because you get an additional 8% health just for having one piece, once I find one that's better, then I will replace it. 120 skill power, 279 going to Chem Launcher, and then if we happen to decide to go with a drone, we have plus 152 drone skill power. Now on to the rest. Let's go over the gloves next. For One Piece Alpha Summit, you get 10% cooldown reduction, which is not really that much. We're mainly going for the weapon damage of these gloves. It capped me at 8% assault rifle damage, so I couldn't roll anything higher. And depending on what I run it with, if it's for PvE or PvP, then I can switch out Devastating for the likes of hard hitting, and then switch out just a couple pieces here and there just to put on damage to elites. And I can use this build in PvE as well, but basically this is more a PvP type build. But 8% assault rifle damage, 5% weapon damage by Devastating talent, which is, for those two things, is 13% assault rifle damage. Then of course we have another offensive mod slot with 5% assault rifle damage and 1.5% weapon damage for a total of 6.5%. So for all three added together, that gives us 19.5% weapon damage going to our assault rifle on our gloves. Now on to the holster. It's a Heliguard holster. We have 3 pieces on this build because we are utilizing a pulse. And for 3 pieces, you get 5% total armor, 20% hazard protection, and then plus 15% pulse skill power. The attributes are 42,748 health, 371 skill power, and then it has 2 offensive mod slots. That's why if I had to pick one particular brand set piece, this would be my favorite, just because out of everything else, you get the most bang for your buck. You can get 2 utilities, 2 defensive Legos, or in this case, a defensive and a utility Lego. Because the upcoming title update 5, which is this is very well ready for, is going to be pumped and primed and ready to go. But until then, it still puts out tons of damage and is a lot of fun. But moving on, in the 2 offensive mod slots, we get 6.5% all weapon damage just going to our assault rifle in one, and then another 6% in the other. So for a total of 12.5% weapon damage just on these 2 mod slots alone. Now moving on to the knee pads. As you can see, I'll scroll through, I have nothing but armor and armor percentages on every single one, except for I have health on a Fenris. But, you know, I don't want to, as you can see, my health drops down over 20k, so I definitely would want a Heliguard knee pads, and not only just for the values as far as attributes and the defensive mod slots that are on them, but also 3 pieces gives me that plus 15% pulse skill power. So these are the best that I have right now, but since it's more PvP oriented, instead of hard hitting, I would go with Patience or Cloaked. But for right now, the attributes are 20,142 health, and then 2 defensive mod slots, 6312 health, 10% health regen, and 653 armor regen. And then the second one, 7693 health, 9% health regen, and then 512 armor regen. Now moving on to the last and 6th final piece of this particular build. It is a Heliguard mask. The attributes are 19,020 health with 252 skill power. We're utilizing Spotter, plus 20% weapon damage to repulsed enemies. And then of course a utility mod slot, 117 skill power, then plus 280 to Chem Launcher, plus another 158 to Pulse. So this is a very good mod because we are utilizing the Chem Launcher and Pulse, so we get a lot of value out of this one mod. So speaking of skills, let's go to our skills now. So first with the Pulse, our skill power is 2,557. We have 1 auxiliary battery with plus 928 skill power, and in the other we have a 45.4% effect duration. So for pulse targets, our duration is now 14.5 seconds, where before it was only 10 seconds. And then we have an 81 second cooldown, which that will change and be reduced come title update 5, so it will no longer be over a minute in this case. So that, you know, plus 4.5 seconds for that pulse can really come in handy, because 4.5 seconds can be an eternity when it comes to PvP battles, right? And then our Chem Launcher. I haven't found a great battery for this particular one yet, the auxiliary battery, like I have in my other skills. But in this case, in one we have 27.8% heal, and then another in the other slot with plus 28.3% heal, for a total of around 60% or 65% heal going to our Chem Launcher. 18 second cooldown, we have 3 ammo, and then of course the armor repair on it is over, well actually almost half of our total armor at 78,904. So essentially, with the armor regen just dropping a pool at our feet, because we don't necessarily want to fully heal our armor, you know, fall back into cover, because we more or less wanted to survive on our health. But while we wait for our health to regen back to its full potential, then, you know, we can drop a Chem Launcher pool at our feet while in cover, so that way we can get, you know, a good chunk of our armor. In this case, almost 79k, which is our total armor, is just almost right at 200k. So essentially a third of our armor, so that way while we're waiting for our health to regen, then we have a little additional armor there to help that out and to help our health come back. So if we're in battle, then that additional health, we do lose out on a little damage and a little bit of the full potential of Berserk, but our survivability is just waiting for our health regen to come back up, so that, you know, boost of armor really comes in handy in those situations. So now let's go to the character sheet. Our stats. In the P416, 23,618. As you can see on the Police M4, 20,141. And then of course the Liberty, 71,862. And then moving on. All weapon damage bonus is 23.5%. Our assault rifle damage bonus is 53%, for a total of 76.5%. Now, if you have better values on, such as the backpack, I'm missing at least 6% there. So that would put me well over 80%. And then, of course, a better roll than that 8.5% on my chest piece. I can get an additional 6.5% there. So with those two, you can add another 12% all weapon damage bonus if you have those particular pieces, and your stats will be better than what you see. So it'll make it more potent if you do. But just with those added in another 16%, then you're almost basically at 100% weapon damage with the proper rolls and high rolls on your pieces. Then moving on, we have the 10% damage to elites. Not very much, but it does come in handy, just that measly 10% on the knee pads, but we will gladly take off because we can get that in mods on our weapon instead of taking up a talent on our knee pads. Then we go on to our defense. 191, 142 armor, 0% armor on a kill, 1167 armor regen, 304,874 max health, and our health regen is 181,400. So stop and think about that. That's over half our health pool total is 181,400 health regen. And then we have 20% hazard protection. On to the skills, 1138 skill power, 10% cooldown reduction, 1290 going to drone, 1698 to Chem Launcher, 2557 to our pulse, and then 1138 follows the rest. But I hope it's been very informative for you. I hope you enjoyed the gameplay at the beginning of the video. Thank you guys again for all the love and support. Don't forget to ground and pound that like and subscribe button, and we'll see you guys fudging later. Have a good one.